Welcome in to the CitrusTV Lacrosse Preview Show. I'm Gotkin alongside Sam Reis. And oh boy, 2026 should be very exciting for both the men and women, Sam.
I'm fired up because you have fun storylines on both sides. For the men, returning the championship weekend last year for the first time in a dozen years. Now the expectations with that stacked senior class is to finally get the job done and win it all. And on the women's side, a new head coach in Reggie Thorpe. So a lot of excitement just for that reason alone.
Well, we've got a plethora of guests joining us throughout the show. Our men's lacrosse beat reporters, Jake Klein, Drew Albaugh, and Cole Purvis. Our women's lacrosse beat reporter, Ryan Croke, and also the wonderful Max Gifford interviewed the CEO of Inside Lacrosse, Terry Foy. Well, we'll get into all of that in a bit, but first we got to go back a little bit and talk about last season for the Syracuse men. It was a historic one because the Orange made it back to championship weekend, but they didn't really ever arrive in Foxborough because by the time the game started, they were pretty much down 8-0 right away.
Right, and if you said before the season they'd make it to championship weekend, you would probably consider the season a success when all was said and done, but you can still argue that the way they went out was disappointing because you would have hoped for a more competitive battle against a team you had already lost to in the regular season as well.
We were both there, Sam, in Foxborough. It was a Orange-dominant crowd. The Syracuse fan base was so excited to be back in championship weekend, to be watching its team on Memorial Day, and it just was too little too late. 6 of Syracuse's 8 goals came in the second half. Just 2 first-half goals. The offense simply didn't show up. This was the same thing that happened last year on the loss to Denver. It's been a bit of a theme, the offense being the reason that Syracuse has ended up losing and getting knocked out.
And heading into this season, you hope that's an area where there's a little bit more consistency so you don't have those off games where you're behind by too much and have to overcome those type of deficits.
Even though they had some of those deficits and they struggled at times, it still was a historic season. Syracuse winning the ACC tournament for the first time in almost a decade and, of course, making it back to championship weekend. And Sam, the stars on that team are players that Syracuse fans will remember for a while, but it is still an interesting group when you look at it because this year there's still a lot of them who will be back, but there are some players that Syracuse is going to miss as well.
Right, we're going to get to those players who they'll miss. We'll get to those newcomers as well. But how about the standouts last year in 2025 that will be back in the fold for the Orange? Because there are a number of them, like you said. Joey Spallina on the attack. You got Jimmy McCool in goal. And then, of course, Michael Leo, another senior who you can't ignore, too. He was really impressive at certain points of the year. These are all key pieces that are back in the fold for the Orange and are a reason why they should be a championship contender.
Joey Spallina leading the offense, but he'll have to do it this year without Owen Hiltz and Sam English, which will make things a little bit more difficult for Spallina. But as you said, you have guys like Michael Leo, Luke Roa returning, Finn Thompson as well, who will be able to add a lot to Joey Spallina's game. And, I think while Hiltz and English leaving is a big loss, they're also both players who had very specific play styles.
Right.
That sometimes hurt Syracuse. Hiltz was a sharpshooter and English was incredible two ways, but he had his faults as well. Now Syracuse might be a little bit more athletic and well-rounded.
A little more freedom, perhaps, especially through the midfield and going on the attack. I think that could play a big role. And don't forget, Spallina was a guy last year who had 55 assists in addition to his 35 goals. So I'm excited to see him do a little bit of everything once more.
And so we talked about Owen Hiltz. We talked about the other guy that Syracuse is going to lose on the offensive end is Sam English. Those departures are going to be something to watch this year, especially also on the defensive end with Michael Grace leaving. He's a guy who had come in from RIT, won a national championship at the Division III level, and had brought so much experience to that defense. Now, you do bring back Riley Figueres and Billy Dwan, but that third long pull spot is going to be probably the closest battle throughout the beginning of the start of the season.
Still a bit of a question mark at this point, and we'll get into some of those newcomers that could perhaps slot in there. But yeah, Michael Grace is someone I really enjoyed watching from day one with Syracuse. It's one thing to be dominant and be a key part of a team that wins a Division III national title, but to play Division I at a program like Syracuse and do what Michael Grace did, what was remarkable, and that'll be a big hole to fill in addition to the likes of English and Hiltz, who are all enjoying professional careers now.
Oh yeah, they all were very impressive in the PLL, those two Culver guys and Grace, all great box lacrosse players as well. The identity within Syracuse lacrosse is still what it's always been, and That is not changing with the new players coming into Syracuse this year. And as always, Sam, there are some great players coming in.
And you have to be excited about it, too. While guys move on, you're right. It's a program where there's always more talent coming in. Albaugh is who I'm most excited about. 5-star freshman coming into the Orange, and really a star midfielder who was an absolute star in high school in Maryland, which I know you'll like, at McDonough. And then you have Dante Bowen, a transfer coming in from Ohio State, short stick defensive midi who could fill a spot there and make an impact. There aren't a ton of transfers in lacrosse, so Bowen is a guy to keep an eye out for too.
Yeah, definitely. Don't expect to see transfers all over the place like in college basketball.
Exactly.
Now that the Ivies don't have that eligibility issues anymore and those players aren't transferring, a lot of guys are staying at their 4-year schools in lacrosse. So Dante Bowen is the only transfer in. And Sam, it's at a really key position for Syracuse, one that the Orange have struggled with, and that's the short stick defensive midi. Yep. That's also a spot where Syracuse lost one of its most important players in Carter Reis. So Dante Bowen really takes Rice's spot. And then in addition to him, you're looking for guys like Jake Spallina, maybe Vincent Bonino, who played some short stick D-midi at the end of the year, to step up.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see the type of impact Bowen makes right away, because you're not going to bring in a grad student like him with one more year of eligibility left and not going to use him to your full advantage. So I think from day one, coming up this weekend, he'll be a guy to look out for.
Well, there's a whole lot of talent on this Syracuse team, and we'll dive into it a little bit more when we come back. We've got our 3 beat reporters joining us to break down the roster. You're watching the CitrusTV Lacrosse Preview Show.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes, but with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Welcome back inside our CitrusTV studio for our Lacrosse Preview Show alongside Adam Gotkin. I'm Sam Reis as we look ahead to both the Syracuse men's and women's lacrosse seasons on the horizon. And Adam, I know you're a big lacrosse guy. What was your favorite position?
Attack. I started off as a goalie, and then I played in a tournament where my dad put us up like 3 levels higher than we were supposed to be.
Okay.
Got hit in the arm a couple times, lost confidence, and moved to attack. And it's fun to score.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know how goalies do it in lacrosse. I really don't.
It's scary. My dad would throw the ball at my helmet. A little bit of like, I don't think that's like unhealthy to do, but you know, you gotta like prep the goalie somehow.
I got you. Well, no matter what your favorite position is, the good news is that we have a roster breakdown for the Syracuse men's lacrosse team by position from our men's lacrosse beat reporters this year. So let me kick things off with Drew Albaugh. Drew, what do you got?
Thanks so much, guys. When talking about this Syracuse attacking squad, I want to equate it to my favorite karaoke song. And no, it's not because it's in an easy key to sing, but it's because the boys are back in town. 4 of Syracuse's top 5 goal scorers, all seniors, return for Syracuse. Joey Spallina, Michael Leo, Luke Roa, and of course, Finn Thompson. Those are the 4 that should provide a lot of length, a lot of energy into this attacking side that finished 11th in the NCAA last season at just over 13 goals per game, but still a lot left to be desired. And now you lose Owen Hiltz on that left side. How does Gary Gate fill the hole of the senior last season? Well, he has a couple of options. A, he could go with Michael Leo, like I just mentioned. A huge season last year for the Orange, but technically listed as a midi. The consensus is Gary Gait could slide him up into the left side. He played attack back in high school, already has great synergy with Joey Spallina. He could be a great option, trailing around X, helping Joey Spallina out when he goes to each GLE. That is one option. The second option is Gary Gait could go to Peyton Anderson, the sophomore who had a spectacular season considering he was just a freshman last year. Finished with 14 goals, just south of 50% of his shot attempts. Found the back of the net. Pretty good stuff, right? But do you want to rely on a sophomore? Inexperience in this level of lacrosse kills. And if you're trying to win a national championship, I think you slided Michael Leo up there, especially with Trey Deer likely being out for the rest of the season. That's the options Gary Gait could go to fill Owen Hiltz. And this is a Syracuse attacking side that really doesn't have a lot of other holes. Syracuse attacking side could be the difference between good, great, and an NCAA tournament champion.
Well, the one sure thing in the Syracuse midfield this season is going to be that guy, Luke Roa. Preseason honorable mention All-American and All-ACC. He returns as SU's leading goal scorer in the midfield. The question is, if Michael Leo is in fact bumped up to fill that lefty attack role with Owen Hiltz graduated and now no Trey Deer this season, who's going to join Luke Roa in the midfield? Could it be Peyton Anderson, who played a lot of midfield in his high school days at Brunswick? Could it be that guy, Tyler McCarthy, who had 9 points and was used sparingly last season? Or maybe Wyatt Hoddle, a 12-point scorer? The fact of the matter is, it doesn't really matter because in lacrosse, once you get the ball into the zone, midfielders, attackmen, they're all the same. They're trying to move the ball. They're trying to score goals. Question is, on the short stick D-midi side, how can Syracuse improve its clear game with Sam English, one of the best two-way middies in the country, and a very underrated loss in Carter Reis, now gone, to get the ball to the zone and let that offense go to work? Well, it's going to have to be a two-headed monster at short stick D-midi, unless we want to get Jake Spallina involved. It's going to be Dante Bowen, who transfers in from Ohio State, a strong, clear game player who's got great speed, and then Ryder Ochoa, who's looking to take a step up after he transferred into SU and played a little bit at short stick D-midi. He came from St. John's. Now we'll send it over to Cole with the defense and the goalies.
The back line, let's talk about it, and I want to start with the 1-2 punch of Billy Dwan and Riley Figueres. Dwan, the man over my shoulder right here, stands at 6'4", 230 pounds, gives SU a real physical edge on the defensive side of the ball. Someone who's been a fixture in this lineup. He started all the way back since he was a freshman, and he is a team captain this year and one of the leaders for Gary Gait's team. Then on the other hand, another captain is Riley Figueres. He flies under the radar sometimes, but he has 55 caused turnovers in his Orange career. That's already a top 10 mark in program history. A chance to build on that this season. But this defense is highlighted by its man-down unit known as the Junkyard Dogs. However, they lost their best player from that unit, and that is Sam English, who moved on to the PLL. So defensive coordinator John O'Derna is going to have some work to do to revamp that unit. Well, now we look at the man in net, and that is Jimmy McCool, someone who had to sit behind Will Mark his first 2 seasons, but then showed what he was made of last year, and he played well in the big games, had 18 saves in the postseason versus Princeton, and then a career-high 20 saves versus Maryland. It wasn't all flowers, though, for him. He was benched earlier in the year against Harvard, but bounced back in a big way. So if he can put it together for an entire season, I think he could be a real factor on this team and someone who could possibly take a lead. The defense is typically strong for SU, and that should be the case once again this year. So Adam and Sam, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks so much, Cole, and great stuff, guys. We're up against another break here on our Lacrosse Preview Show, but don't go anywhere because after the break, our own Max Gifford caught up with Inside Lacrosse CEO Terry Foy, who gave insight on the Orange coming up this season.
Jason, let's go see your room.
We're rolling on here on the CitrusTV Lacrosse Preview Show. Adam Gotkin and Sam Reis with you. It is crazy to me that we are previewing lacrosse in the month of January. To me, it is always a summer sport. That's when it's played when you're young. And, you know, we're barely playing games now. Yeah. Syracuse is one of the only ones that didn't get canceled. You look at, what was it, Johns Hopkins Towson, canceled. Maryland Richmond, canceled. It's absurd.
Yeah, and then a select few that have indoor facilities, they moved them into there. Not many, though. That's why you got to be grateful for the Dome with Syracuse.
Yeah, I was watching the Utah-Delaware game on Twitter earlier today.
Yep.
From a stream behind the goal. It was interesting. Well, you know what? We are very grateful to have the Dome, and someone who I know is grateful for the Dome is the legendary CEO of Inside Lacrosse, Terry Foy, and we're very grateful that he sat down with our good friend Max Gifford before the season to help break down what these Syracuse teams will look like.
Adam and Sam, thanks so much, and truly there is no better person to talk to ahead of this highly anticipated Syracuse men's lacrosse season than Inside Lacrosse CEO Terry Foy. Terry, thanks so much for taking the time. Let's start with those expectations because they're sky high here on campus right now. The buzz you can really feel around this program, and it feels like this is the first time in a while that Syracuse has had all the spotlights on it. What does this season mean for Syracuse men's lacrosse?
The finality of being back, you know, that's been the conversation for the last couple of years. And I think that the standard at Syracuse is to win national championships. And as Joyce Bluna said this week, that's the only thing that he really gives a blank about. I think that's right. And I think that he and his teammates probably feel that same way. And I think that, you know, when the standard is that high and when the program and team have shown the steady progress of incremental improvement to the point where winning a championship is the only thing really that this program has left to attain under this, you know, duration, this tenure of players, then certainly the expectations and the standard are now in line for the first time in the Gary Gate era.
Well, I know you picked Syracuse to go back to championship weekend, and a couple of your staff members have even picked the Orange to win the national championship. Do you think anything less than that, the Orange can categorize the season as a success?
I mean, you're catching me in a moment when I just rewatched the video of Giannis Antetokounmpo talking about the nature of success and failure when it comes to sports. So I might not be that harsh, but yeah, I mean, certainly I think when your internal expectations are Final Four or national championship or bust, then if you fall short of that, you can't be satisfied. You can't be happy with it. I bristle at the idea of having to pick a champion relative to picking Final Four attendees, you know, teams that make it to the Final Four. And the reason is because in this sport, the margins are so thin that what I think is the dividing line between I'm confident in your ability to make it a championship weekend versus I'm confident in your ability to lift the trophy on Monday is about matchups. And while there's a lot that we can infer about what these teams are going to look like, how their quality is going to compare to one another, and that you can create a little bit of a line of demarcation between 4 and 5, you know, there's so much about who matches up against whom on Saturday, and then who plays first, right? As silly as it sounds, the numbers show over the last 15 years that playing the early game on Saturday is disproportionately related to winning on Monday. You know, those are the types of things that you just can't know until the bracket comes out, and sometimes even later than that. And unfortunately in this sport, it seems like right now, those are the things that have an outsized effect on who wins.
And did want to talk with you about that third attack spot because the rumor is right now Michael Leo might step up as that lefty attacker. But if he does, what do you make of that for the SU midfield?
I mean, candidly, I feel like I've been calling for Leo to play attack for 3 seasons. And it's not because of what he brings to the attack. It was really because of what I thought Owen Hills brought to the midfield. You know, dating back to when he was on the recruiting circuit, I thought that his ability to dodge just was so dangerous from the places that are usually occupied by midfield. I'm not going to sit here and say that that would have been the right decision, but with the context being, what does it mean if Leo slots down at attack? I mean, you know, I think you do lose a little bit of that initiation from the standpoint of what he brought to the midfield, but now you just have it on the field all the time, right? And the distinction between a midfielder and attackman sometimes comes down to just who gets the shots on fast break opportunities. And you want Michael Leo being the guy getting those shots. So really all it does is put a little bit more pressure on Bear Anderson, who looks as much like a college midfielder as pretty much anybody playing college lacrosse right now. And so, you know, if he's going to bring to that first midfield line what Leo has brought the last couple of years, I can't imagine there being much of a drop-off in that spot.
And Gary Gate has hinted that both Leo and Anderson might even move up, so there might be a 4-attack set, if you will. Have you seen success in teams that do employ 4 attackers?
Yeah, I think that the era of positionless offense is here. And again, the distinction is not, even so much where on the field you occupy. It's really just who's expected to get back on defense if the opposing team has transition, and who are the guys that are going to run to the substitution box and then out of the substitution box, and then rotate a little bit with the second midfield line. So yeah, I think that if both Leo and Anderson are on the field as attackmen, what it does is it basically just changes the handedness of your fast break, right? You have 2 lefties and 1 righty, as opposed to more traditionally having 2 righties and 1 lefty. And so what that does is it gives Joey Spallina a lot more opportunity to then basically throw these cross-field skip passes to Leo and Anderson for shots in early offense. And that is a way to unlock Joey that, is equivalent to a lot of what we saw last year, a little bit of a, kind of inside scouting report for BU. It was one of the reasons that Jimmy O'Connell was so successful for BU last year. He was kind of the lefty playing with the righties, and that field imbalance ended up being to his benefit production-wise. So if Syracuse decides that that's the spot that they want to put Spallina in, you could potentially imagine a scenario in which it would be unfolding similarly for him.
So many good storylines for this team, and the fact that we haven't hit on Joey Spallina yet is kind of crazy, but he has a chance to potentially pass Mikey Powell for the most points in SU history and end his senior season as one of the most highly touted recruits with a national championship. I guess, what do you think in your eyes this year would mean for leaving his legacy?
I mean, it's everything. And again, I think that he's been very open, very clear, and very willing to take on the mantle, right? Dating back to that post-game press conference in the quarterfinal win over Princeton, and when he basically asked for the smoke, right? And now in his preseason comments, doubling down on it in terms of setting the standard for the program, or setting the expectation, I suppose is a better word for it, that matches the standard, the 4-decade standard that this program has set for itself. I think when I compare Joey Spallina, it usually is to Shaq Stanwyck. And, I don't expect your audience necessarily to remember, but he's the #1 recruit in the class of 2014, the younger brother of Steele Stanwyck, who won the 2011 Thornton Award and won a national championship. The expectations and stakes were really high for him heading to Johns Hopkins, and he struggled with really debilitating back injuries throughout his career and still finished with 200 points. The reason I compare him to Joey is because his floor was so high. And that's not the way most fans typically think about #1 recruits. They think about it in the context of the ceiling. So the point is that there is tremendous value in being an incredibly high floor setter, and that's exactly what Joey has been over the course of his first 3 years on campus. And now he gets the opportunity to define exactly how high his ceiling is going to go. And if he wins a national championship, then certainly there's no criticism that can be foisted upon what he's done and how he has fulfilled the promise of the expectations that he arrived on campus with.
Real quick, while we have you, we're going to talk some women's lacrosse right around the corner. It's a new era for the Orange with Reggie Thorpe at the helm. What can SU fans expect to see that may be different after the last couple of years under Kayla Traynor?
Well, I think Reggie was a continuity hire, right? Obviously, he has tremendous familiarity and experience with that institution. He knows a lot of the players in this roster. It's a good team. It's a team that, has a little bit of internal rebuilding to do on the basis of how the last couple seasons have unfolded. And I think that he was the right man for the job. So short answer is, as they have continued to bring in talent, they are a program that also can have realistic Final Four aspirations, even if they're not quite in that tier where they should justifiably say, we expect to be there. They are good enough to say that if we play well, if we get better, if everything goes the way we hope to and we can stay healthy, then we belong playing on a championship weekend.
Well, there's one thing that's certainly true, is that Terry Foy belongs right here on our Men's Lacrosse Preview Show, telling us everything about this SU men's squad and women's squad. Terry, thanks so much for the time once again.
Max, Terry, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Well, we are up against another break here on the Lacrosse Preview Show, but when we come back, we are talking some women's lacrosse. Our beat reporter, Ryan Croke, joins us in studio. You're not going to want to miss it. You're not going to want to miss it.
You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. If you're buzzed and doing this, to make yourself feel okay to drive,
CWX.
you're not okay to drive.
YGKLVW. Regular you.
Welcome back to our Lacrosse Preview Show here on Citrus TV with Adam Gotkin. I'm Sam Reis, and Adam, we've been previewing and getting ready for the men's lacrosse season, but less than a week later than that, the women's squad will be getting underway, and there's a lot of excitement and things to talk about surrounding them as well.
Oh, of course, and just like the men, they pack their schedule with top-tier matchup after top-tier matchup. I mean, you start the season against the Maryland team. That's always incredible. It's going to be fun, and we'll learn a lot about this team pretty early on.
We will, and we're going to delve more into that 2026 schedule in a moment, but let's rewind for a moment and talk about what was 2025 for SU. A down year for their standards, right? 10-9 overall record, 5-4 in conference play, and a skid down the stretch. Those losses to Virginia Tech and the blowout to BC, followed by an ACC tournament loss to Stanford, but they still managed to squeak into the NCAA tournament and get a win in the dance against Brown before ultimately falling to Yale. But still, with where this program has been in recent years, Adam, they fell short of those type of expectations.
Yeah, and it just didn't feel right, honestly, from the start of the season. You know, it was so interesting with this program because they had been so good, they were making it to the Final Four, could never get over the hump, and then all the wheels just completely fell off, and boom, Kayla Trainer's gone. Right. I mean, you almost miss the tournament, and your coach doesn't get fired, but she leaves for Penn State, and now Syracuse is in a spot where it had to find a new women's lacrosse coach. But I think if you ask people around the lacrosse community, there will be some people who tell you they might have an upgrade now because Reggie Thorpe came in as the new head coach, and he's a guy who's got a ton of experience as a coach in this Syracuse community, was a national champion as a player, then was an assistant for the women's team, and then went to Florida where he really helped build that program up and turn the Gators into a Final Four contenders out of, basically nothing. They were a program that was just getting underway before he got there.
Right. I think this is an exciting hire because of those Syracuse ties he has. With that experience coaching on Gary Gates' staff when he was with the women's team, I think there's reasons to look forward to this new era of Reggie Thorpe.
And Reggie Thorpe, a legend in his own right in the playing days. He might not be Gary Gate or Kayla Trainer, but maybe that means he can take a step up in the coaching ranks if he wasn't as good as, the greatest players in program history.
Right. All right, well, I'm now joined by our women's lacrosse beat reporter, Ryan Croke. It's an honor, Ryan. We only know so much, right? And you're the expert here about this team going into the 2026 campaign. You heard myself and Adam just talking about the new man in charge, Reggie Thorpe. So that's where I'll go to first. How should fans feel about this hire and feel about the new man in charge?
Oh, very optimistic. I mean, you guys just listed out all his credentials. Talk about a guy who knows what the expectations are at this program. And Adam, you talked about how it might have been an upgrade from Kayla Trainer, and it's hard to dispute that it might be because look at what he's got in his resume. The decade as an assistant head coach at Syracuse, made it all the way to the championship weekend 5 times in that span. Then he goes to Florida, turns them into a contending team there, and then comes back and is in the head spot. There's a lot to like with him. So there's a lot to love.
Right, a lot of optimism there from yourself, and it seems like the overall vibe is similar within the Syracuse fan base. But looking at the other side of the spectrum, biggest concern going into this year for the Orange?
Well, it has to be the schedule. I mean, you play 16 regular season games, and 10 of those opponents are ranked in the preseason poll. You play all 3 of the top 3 teams coming into the season, including undefeated North Carolina, who just coming off a national championship season. Add in Northwestern and Boston College, who always seems to have Syracuse's number. That's not fun. You play 4 of the top 5 teams if you throw in Stanford, and 3 of those 4 games are on the road. So not a very favorable draw in terms of competition. But the Orange are ranked at number 11. They're a team that certainly has the talent and the ability to compete with those teams, and I expect we'll see an improvement on last season despite that tough schedule.
So you said it right there. You expect improvement upon last season. What is the ceiling then for the squad after bowing out in the second round of the NCAA tournament last year?
Well, Reggie Thorpe said it. This is the expectations at Syracuse are championship weekend, playing Memorial Day weekend lacrosse.
Yeah.
And I see no reason why that can't be the expectation, and it can't be the sky we expect this team to reach in year 1 of Reggie Thorpe. I mean, they returned over 2/3 of the roster last year. That's only going to get better. A very young team in Division I lacrosse last season. They're only going to have more experience coming into this season. You return your top 2 goal scorers in Emma Muchnick and Caroline Trinkus.
Yeah.
And, you know, despite losing Emma Ward, that I think is the big question mark. Who's going to fill her void as the top playmaker, the facilitator of the offense? But if you can answer that question, the sky is really the limit. And the expectation, again, championship weekend, I don't see why that can't be achieved.
Well, if Syracuse can make it that far, this is the guy, no matter how far they end up going, that will have your coverage throughout the spring. Thanks so much for the time, Ryan. You can follow Ryan Croke's coverage throughout the season as the women's lacrosse beat reporter here at CitrusTV. And let's now take a look at the details of what that 2026 schedule is looking like. Adam, we heard Ryan talk a little bit about it, and it is really stacked. What really stands out to me is how early conference play is starting, and that it's UNC you got to go up against.
I think that this is maybe the hardest possible start to a schedule in like lacrosse history.
I agree.
Play a Kathy Reis coach Maryland team that's always going to be difficult to start the season, and then you have North Carolina, who seems to be unstoppable now with Chloe Humphrey coming back, and then you got to go all the way out to the West Coast, a long flight. I mean, that is not easy for this team.
No, and then of course the tradition of ending the regular season with Boston College. That'll be a road game trying to get revenge after getting throttled last year in the regular season. Should be an interesting schedule, and we'll find out a lot in the early stages for the Syracuse squad. Time for another break here on our Lacrosse Preview Show, but don't go anywhere because we wrap up shop with a schedule preview on the men's side, and we'll also give our predictions for this season. Stay tuned.
You quit smoking and thought, that's that. But here's the thing about lung cancer. By the time you see the symptoms, it could be too late. But now, there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early, when it's more curable. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Preview show. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Sam Reis. And before we give you our predictions for this upcoming season, we've got to take another quick look back at last year. And Sam, really the theme all throughout was just inconsistency for the Orange.
It really was. It's so bizarre the way the whole season played out, because one week you're thinking, wow, this team, if they play like this, they could be the best in the nation. No one's stopping them. But then, you know, the shock loss to Harvard, you sit back and go, what's going on with this team? And especially with the way they ended the regular season, too, with 3 consecutive losses. See the first one at the bottom of your screen, Cornell. Okay, that's respectable. But then just no momentum on their side going into postseason play, and all of a sudden they turn things around and play like the best team in the nation in the conference tournament.
That was how things went for this team. It was so weird. Right as things were going great, they would lose, and then they would just pick it right back up again. They lose 3 in a row, then they win the ACC tournament for the first time in almost a decade. And then they almost lost to Harvard in the first round. I mean, that game goes to overtime. Syracuse needs a miracle to pull it off. If they lost, it would have been a completely different season, and the outlook for this year would have been different. It wouldn't have been built off of Final Four. It would have been, you got to do something here, because this team would have had no success in 3 years with this star-studded senior class.
It's crazy to think how close they were to not making it to championship weekend, and potentially not even close to making it if that Harvard game had gone otherwise. And it's really that 3-game stretch from the ACC title game to the quarterfinals that you go, wow, that really could have gone the other way. 3 straight 1-goal wins, dramatic fashion in all of them, and that's how they ended up punching their ticket to Foxborough.
Just an incredible fun season last year for Syracuse, and I mean, there's no reason to think that this won't be the same. You look at just how tough of a schedule it is for Syracuse. I mean, it is absolutely absurd. There are top 10 teams all over the place, top 20 teams all throughout the schedule. At the start of the season, Syracuse plays BU Week 1. It's the first time that Gary Gait has ever opened against a ranked team, so it's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of challenges, but I think that the Syracuse team is going to have a lot of success. Let's take a look at my predictions for the schedule. I have the Orange going 12-3 in the regular season. My only loss is at Princeton, a rematch of the quarterfinal last year. Home against Georgetown. This is a really tough Hoyas team. They have the Connor brothers coming in from Colgate. You might remember them. They gave Syracuse a lot of trouble. And, you know, that rivalry, that's just one of those games that you feel like Syracuse might lose. They lost to Harvard last year, Army the year before. They kind of just have one of those in them. And then this UNC team with Owen Duffy, they brought in an incredible freshman class. I just think, especially on the road, that's going to be really difficult. But 12-3 with wins over BU, Maryland, Harvard, Hopkins, Denver, Duke, Notre Dame. Like, those are incredible wins. So that might be a top 3 team in the country with 3 losses.
I think it very well could be, and definitely an improvement from last season as well. All right, let's take a look at my schedule prediction.
Not too different.
It's not too different, which I don't love how much I'm agreeing with you here, but same record, 12-3. I think that's respectable. I was thinking maybe 13-2. Not quite, though. And our big difference here is that I have Georgetown being a win at home. I still don't think Syracuse can solve Maryland. I don't think they can solve the Terps. It's just Tillman has their number. Whether it's at the Dome or on the road, I think it's, once again, a very good Terps squad, and I just can't pick against them when they go against the Syracuse team until Syracuse proves me wrong.
Here's the thing. Why I have Syracuse winning this game is because the way that they've lost against Maryland the last 3. I mean, that Final Four one was just, you go on almost a 30-minute scoreless drought. And then the last 2 regular season games against the Terps. You had the awful torrential downpour in College Park where it was 30 degrees and pouring rain. And then the year before that, did Michael Leo land in the goal mouth?
Very
the biggest controversial ending ever. So there were 2 regular season games where Syracuse said, oh, if this didn't happen, we could have won.
All right.
So I think they get it done against John Tillman this year.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't go that way, but I agree with a loss at Princeton, tough place to go on the road against a very talented team. And then as well, I was thinking either a UNC or Notre Dame loss on the road. I think the Tar Heels are slightly better.
All right, Sam. So, last thing for you.
Yeah.
Can this team win the national championship? Can they do it? Is this the year?
Can they do it? Absolutely.
Will they?
Will they do it? No. I think they fall short in the national title game. I know that's heartbreaking to come that close and not get the job done. I just have a feeling it won't happen, Adam.
To who?
I'm going to say to Cornell.
Oh, back-to-back.
I think back-to-back.
Wow.
Yeah, the big
Without
Red.
C.J. Kirst.
I still think they're very good.
I love Connor Busek. He's a great coach at Cornell.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it. Syracuse wins the national championship this year. Here's my reason why. I think they have the best face-off man in the country in John Mullen, best goalie in the country in Jimmy McCool.
Massachusetts.
2 Mass guys.
Oh, yeah.
Specialists win you NCAA tournament games. Specialists win you national championships. That's why Maryland has won so many, because they've had great face-off men, great goalies. And also, I mean, you have Joey Spalina, Billy Dwan, stars on offense and defense. I think that this is the most well-rounded Syracuse team that we've seen yet.
It is.
And it should be a lot of fun this season.
This is the chance.
This is it.
I hope
have
they
to win
pull it
this
off.
year.
I hope you're right.
Because here's the thing. If they don't win it this year, you lose a lot. You lose Joey Spalina. You lose Finn Thompson, Luke Roa, Michael Leo on offense. It's going to be tough. So they got to do it this year. Well, season gets underway tomorrow, February 1st against Boston University. It is a 1 p.m. opening faceoff. Orange Press Pass goes live at 5:45. We'll have your coverage all throughout the season here on Citrus TV for both the men and the women. Well, we thank you all so much for tuning in to the Citrus TV Lacrosse Preview Show. For Sam Reis, I'm Adam Gotkin. Have a great rest of your day.